Howdy neighbors, this is Two Bit again. Hey, thanks for the views and the comment. I really appreciated that. Lets me know I'm getting out there a little bit anyhow. Uh, I say way too much. I'm going to try to work on that. It's been brought to my attention. What I want to talk about today is handlers and how we all have handlers. We all have a lot of handlers. And the handlers that handle us determine a lot about our actions, our way of thinking, our train of thought, and what we do. Normal, the definition of normal is what a group of people consider to be right and usual. And I hate to use the word in the definition, but normal. For instance, if I lived on an island and every time we went to war and we killed somebody, we had to eat their fingernails. That'd be a normal thing, you know. It wouldn't be like, and we'd do it. And we'd come back to camp all full of fingernails, which is kind of sick, but it would be normal. To us, it's not, because we haven't been taught that way. It's the same way with our street violence. It's the same way with our wars. And it all boils down to education. And our handlers are giving us a specific education. They're giving us specific input as to what they want us to put into our heads. We're like computers, and what we put in is what we get out. Garbage in, garbage out was what they used to tell me. And that's why the world's getting to the place it is, because they understand, our handlers do, that education will make the herd go this way, and it'll make the herd go that way. Well, they've got us going this way here, and we need to stop. We need to look at each other and go, I mean, do you really have a reason to want to hit me in the mouth? No, at this point you don't. I'm sure sometime I might give you one, but right now you don't have that initial reaction. You don't want to punch me. That's natural, that's normal. That's us, that's who we are. You bring in the handlers and you put us in the situation that they create, and bam. We're burning cop cars and jumping up and down on them. We're burning our own gas stations and our own stores. What sense does that make? If I'm mad at you for me to burn down my own house, and that's the kind of control the handlers have. And believe me, it makes them happy to know they have that kind of control. We're all handled, don't get me wrong. But once we wake up to that fact, it's easier to determine who we allow to handle certain parts of our gray matter, our minds, if you will. 4-H. 4-H is a great thing. You learn about how to run a farm, how to take care of livestock, how to do the books. Those handlers are good people to you. Boy Scouts used to be the same way. I used to be a Boy Scout. They taught me how to get around in the woods. They taught me integrity. They taught me to be prepared. They taught me good things. You can get with other handlers. You can hook up with the Hells Angels. Not saying they're bad. Name kind of speaks for itself. But yeah, you can hook up with somebody like that. In that case, you're allowing yourself to be controlled by a bad set of handlers. Well, there's handlers that have money and power and prestige, and they handle us in ways we don't even know. Example, the nightly news. We only get certain news. How many of you know that there was just a big eruption on the sun that was caused by a comet that's sending an energy wave through solar winds towards the Earth? Those solar winds are going to go around our magnetic field and pass through our core, which is going to in turn heat the Earth and cause Mount Etna to erupt, which happened about probably 14, 15 hours ago. See, the more you know, the more you can make a big picture. So I know why Mount Etna's going off. Because I strayed away from my handlers and went looking for my own information. So with Mount Etna going off, you're going, well, what's the big deal there? Well, there's things going on. We're about to apex in all kinds of directions, and our handlers are trying to keep that from us. You know, our economy, I mean, dude, our economy is about to go bust big time. And they keep handing us paper money, and we keep taking it. And we have to do more and more for less and less paper money every day. The job I just got done doing, I think should have paid me $1,000 a week. The job I left before that should have paid me at least $1,200 a week. I didn't make near that much money at either job. Wages have been stagnant. What do you attribute that to? You know, well, it's attributed to people and companies leaving our country and our state, which, by the way, I live in a raunchy state. I like the place, hate the government. But as people leave, the fewer people that are here have to support the rest of the people. And our handlers have cut shifts. You're going to work 12 hours. Well, you know what? 12 hours a day cuts a whole shift of people out of work. So where you could have had, you know, yeah, it cuts down on your paperwork, but you got a computer, you got people that handle that sort of thing. My neighbor, my farmer, 4,000 acres, probably cut, you know, 40 farmers could live on 40 acres. Well, not 40 farmers on, excuse me, not 40 farmers on 40 acres, but if he was to give every farmer 100 acres, he could live well. But instead, we want to go buy these big giant machines that allow us to do, I don't know how many acres that field is out there, but it used to take 3 days to do that field. I used to work for some of the farmers around here. Now they come through in an afternoon, and in about 3 hours, boom, they're done. Well, you know, you're cutting people out of work. Those people go to the big cities where there aren't any jobs, and they end up getting killed or being a killer. It just makes sense. But our handlers are bringing that sort of thing about. And they want you to call it success. They want you to call it technical advances. It's not a technical advance when I'm killing my neighbor, I'm sorry. It's not a technical advance when I watch my neighbor starve. But our handlers have us convinced that that's the way to go. Well, it's not. We've been given a certain education and taught to think a certain way. We hate certain people. Some of us do, some of us don't. But, you know, it gets easier and easier with what the news handlers give us for information. Pump us full of Black Lives Matter stuff, and you think we won't start getting upset with those people? Pump the black people full of white supremacy stuff like you're doing. Well, they call it white privilege now. Well, you know what? If I was to take you and show you around my place, there's no white privilege here. None. Well, what do you consider white privilege? The fact that I can go work 12 hours a day and bring home just barely enough to get by after I pay my insurance, which is $100 a week? You want to call that white privilege? You know, when you, and I'm not going to pick a color, but when certain people can go to a free clinic, I don't get to go to no free clinic. That's not white privilege. I just went to the clinic the other day because I had sinus trouble. It cost me $348 for 5 minutes. That's white privilege? I mean, you know, all of it didn't come out of my check, but I pay $100 a week for insurance, and I had to make a copay. You know, there's no privilege there, none. And you need to get that out of your head. I need to rebuild my house. I don't have the money because the only job that I'm qualified for, I have an 8-hour clock, I have an 11-hour clock, and I have to have everything done in 14 hours. You know, and I'm a truck driver. I can only go so fast. So how much money I can even make is determined by my handlers. You know, oh, you're making too much money, let's slap an insurance payment on them. If they don't want to pay the insurance, let's slap a fine on them at the end of the year, which isn't really a fine because that's illegal. You know, you want to talk about cruel and unusual punishment, but that's not my point. My point is, the way our handlers are treating us. Divide and conquer. Look around, we're being divided. Obama started it, Trump's going to finish it. I don't know that they're not playing for the same people. You know, I mean, if I was going to write a story or something like that, that's exactly how I would do it. I would pit people against each other. Let them kill themselves off and we can save that 4 billion rounds of ammunition we got. You know, what's that for? Well, that's for those of us that don't kill each other off. Point in fact, for those of you that don't know, look up the Georgia Guidestones. They only want 500 million people on the whole planet. That's all they need. Probably 4 million to take care of the place and the other million to be the authority, the law enforcement. Speaking of law enforcement, another handler thing, it used to be police officer, and they used to come and keep the peace, you know. Now they're law enforcement. Well, that's a little more intimidating. It's a handler thing, you know. You're being surveilled, you're being patrolled, you need to come to this way of living and get used to it and do what we say. Well, you know, there's a few of us out here that don't like what you say. I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to live to hurt anybody. I just want to be left alone. I want to do my job. I want to make my money. I want to live my life and go home. But that's not good enough for the handlers. There's portions of my life they haven't interfered with, like what I do at home when I'm not at work. You know, that's crap. What I do at home on my own time is my business. If I show up to work on time, ready to go to work, and I do my job well, then you need to leave me alone. But no, the handlers won't do that because with power, they want more power. And we just keep turning it over and giving it to them. You know, it's kind of like, go along to get along. Well, my question to you is going to be one of these days, how far are you going to go along? And when are you going to stop getting along? When's enough enough? You know, when do you put a stop to it? But anyhow, we have handlers, and a lot of the handlers that we have work behind the scenes in ways that we don't realize, don't know about. The media was one of them till this election cycle. The laws they come up with, the millions of laws, war on drugs, I'll just use that for an example. That's not a war on drugs. They don't go out when they make a big raid and shoot up the marijuana bale or the kilo of coke that's sitting there. They don't shoot that stuff up because you can't kill it. They go after the people. So it's a war on people because a certain tribe doesn't want the other tribe doing a certain thing. You know, maybe if you weren't so pushy and such a asshole about it, it wouldn't be out of control. There's countries that let young people drink. They don't have an alcohol problem. You know, we restrict it and look what we got. And gateway drugs, you want me to tell you what the gateway drugs are? Our handlers wanted to smoke it. That was a way to thin the herd. But not only was it a way to thin the herd, it was a way to make money from the people while you thinned the herd. Because now, you know, how much does it cost to have cancer? You know? And if they cured it, then they wouldn't have jobs. So, you know, why cure it? But, yeah, they're killing us on one hand and saying they're saving us on the other. It's craziness. And it's time we woke up and said, you know, enough's enough. And not the way we're getting ready to do it, because there's nothing good going to come out of this. The government's got MRAPs. They've got drones. They can blow me up right here where I'm sitting at in my studio here. And I'd never even know they were overhead. Good movie out called Drone, and well worth watching. It debates the morality of what they're doing there. But yeah, folks, help me out here. Tell me where I'm going wrong. But I think the handlers are manipulating us, and we're going a bad direction. That's what I think. If you have more evidence, then by all means get a hold of me. If I'm way off base and wrong, by all means get a hold of me, because I don't like a bleak outlook. You know, who does? I like that song, Everything's Coming Up Roses. Let's get back to that. Let's get some folks educated. Let's get folks real, back in the real world. I'm sorry, but to me, when you've confused somebody enough that they don't know what gender they are, that's a little too far. You know, I'm not saying there ain't guys that want to be girls and stuff like that. But dude, really? Or dudette, really? You know, you've just made it okay for a 50-year-old man to go into the bathroom with my granddaughter. And the minute he does that, he's going to learn that not everybody approves of that. And whether I go to jail or whether I don't. See, that's what I'm talking about. Standing up against things that aren't right, and that's not right. So help me take a look around. Let's take a look around together. Let's see what our handlers are actually doing to us. Throughout the course, let's find out who these handlers are. Things aren't looking too good for John Podesta, one of the handlers. But yeah, all these handlers are working for the same ends, and those ends are, they're the top of the food chain, and those of us that remain are labor. And once they get these machines perfected, they ain't gonna need us too much. So your days are numbered. You know, if you play the game with them, they're not going to use you in the end. You know, what you people need to understand, we're not the end result here. The end result is a paradise for those with a large amount of money and very few people around. So let's keep in touch. Let's find out what's going on, and let's start a tribe, I guess, right? But thank you.